want to thank my boss, Christine Ruggiero, to be a guest speaker today about human trafficking.
Okay.
Christine, can you just introduce yourself for us?
My name is Christine Ruggiero. I'm the Same Start Coordinator for the County of Essex. I'm a certified forensic nurse, certified forensic consultant. I'm also a diplomat of the American Board of Forensic Nurses, liaison between our office liaisons with the FBI for human trafficking, and primarily my focus is sex crimes.
Okay, so first question. What are some telltale signs that a victim is a human trafficking victim?
Oh, okay. In our practice, as a sexual assault nurse, we would probably do an exam, and it's an invasive exam. And one of the telltale signs for us is a person, a victim who is very skittish, wants their cell phone on. So we interpret that as that somebody's listening. So the trafficker wants to hear what this person is saying or not saying. So we tell them turn cell phones off. That's like a red flag. Also, when they come in, if we find any fibers, cotton fibers, if they have their menses and they're not doing traditional methods and they're doing, other things, that's another reason we look at. Traffickers want these girls to make money, so they will keep them making money, and they use alternative means to do that. They want them out there 7 days a week if they can. Another thing we see in the ERs, they'll present with poor hygiene. A lot of times they'll present in the ER with gynecological problems that have been going on for a long time. Lack of medical treatment. They'll come in with a very big gap. They will not have shots up to date. Can't remember last time they went to a doctor or a dentist. Dental hygiene is very big. If you see someone with teeth that are not appropriate for the age, let's say a lot of cavities, a lot of rotten teeth in a teenager, that is a red flag for us. Traffic victim comes in with someone who they insist stays in the room with them during the exam. Well, they'll say it's their family, although it's not their family. That's a slang term that the traffickers will use, family. So that raises a red flag. Let's see what else.
So next question. What is the most challenging aspect of helping human trafficking victims?
Wow. They tend to come back again and again. They refuse help. They deny. A lot of the time it's from shame. A lot of times it's their fear. They're afraid of being caught. They're afraid of ratting out the person who's trafficking them. To these individuals who are already disenfranchised, they have a huge vulnerability. There's a lack of self-esteem, and usually the person who's trafficking them is all they know for family. So you don't want to take someone from their family. The other thing is they will take the hit for this. So we find a lot of times we're not helping them with social services, but we are arresting them. And that's not the way to help them, because once a victim usually tends to be a victim throughout their lifespan.
Thank you. Now, do you believe that domestic violence victims and sex trafficking victims share similar characteristics?
Absolutely. Low self-esteem, fractured homes, poverty, abuse, substance abuse, violence. It's all they know. They've grown up around it. It does not faze them. That's what they've seen. Their role models are usually women, and if the woman is involved in something and dependent on another individual for their means, the child, who then eventually becomes an adolescent, will find the same pattern. Again, it's victimology. Once a victim, they tend to stay as victims, but also all they've known all their lives is that violence, so they tend to gravitate towards that inadvertently.
Okay, so now next question. What are the most important resources a human trafficking victim needs in order to feel whole again?
Basically safety, and then the basic food, shelter. Remember, a lot of these victims don't have stable homes, stable environments, and they usually don't have anywhere to go. So a lot of times when we take them, unfortunately we will bring them in, and we try not to arrest them, but sometimes it's the safest way to keep them away from the traffic and away from that lifestyle. Security, they need security. They need to know that they're safe. A lot of them are fearful. They've never been safe all their lives, and now they join this family, supposedly, and that person, the trafficker, offers them a place to stay, food when they offer it, and some sort of a safety net. So that's all they know. So when you take that person away from the trafficker, you're actually cutting the umbilical cord. So you need to provide them with safety, and you need to believe them, and make sure that you can get them back, build up their self-esteem, safety, meet the basic needs, and also show them that it's not their fault.
Now, In your opinion, what are some ways that the community can help prevent human trafficking?
Well, I think what we can do is get out to the schools early. Most girls and boys are trafficked, but mostly girls, between the ages of 12 and 14. That's very young, but that's when they're impressionable. Being trafficked doesn't necessarily mean that you're taken from your home. You can be in your home. So social media, parents need to monitor social media, apps, websites, all this social media where they think there's no trace of it. Kick and stuff like those apps that they have. The other thing is also getting in there and telling them, teaching them self-esteem. Most traffickers will prey on the vulnerability of someone's low self-esteem. They will also give them a lifestyle or promise them a lifestyle that the child is longing for. Most adolescents want to fit in. They don't want to be unusually different, so they try to fit in. And how do you fit in? Mostly with teenagers, it's what everyone else is doing. And you'll find a lot of children or adolescents going into this, some from very well intact homes just because they want to keep up with, shall we say, the Joneses. But we do need to get out there early. In high schools, junior high, anything where they can be preyed upon. Malls, particularly with little girls in the malls in groups, distracted by the cell phones. Traffickers prey all the time, places like that, where there is no parental supervision or adult supervision.
So, final question. In your opinion, how do you think law enforcement can help better address and fight human trafficking?
They have to get educated. Law enforcement historically likes to go after the perpetrator. So we need to change that mentality. The perpetrator here is not always the victim, and it's very hard in sex crimes for law enforcement to believe the victim. It's a mentality that's very difficult, but training is huge. You have to understand the mindset of both the person who's being trafficked and the trafficker. And a lot of it is control. It's control of their environment. So victims are not very easy to deal with. They're challenging at times. There's a lot of psychosocial issues. Also, law enforcement needs to have, I think, forensic nurses are better to have there with them. But they also need to go through a lot of training. How to speak to them is key. It cannot be accusatory. It needs to be more empathetic and sympathetic. And the culture we live in, unfortunately, people don't really trust law enforcement anymore. And there's a fear of being locked up for something that they did, but they had no choice to do. So I think we need to start by believing.
Okay, so Christine, in your experience, have you ever came across human trafficking? And how did you know it was human trafficking?
The answer is yes. I was called out to a case in the emergency room, and the pediatrician in the pediatric ER said, I have a 17-year-old here who is refusing to speak, but she came in as a domestic violence. And usually, a lot of times, these girls will not come in and report a sexual assault because they don't view it as that. They'll come in as a domestic violence. So I went down to see the girl, and she had a lot of cigarette burns on her arms and hands. And I said to her, what happened? And she said, oh, my boyfriend did it. So we kind of asked a little more about her boyfriend, and she said he was 39 and she was 17. So that raised a red flag. And I said to her, what's your boyfriend's last name? And she didn't know it. She just says, I only know him by his street name. So that kind of raised another red flag. And the more we started talking, the more she kept going back to this wig that she had. And I said, well, tell me about that wig. She was very self-conscious. She had a bandana on her head. And I said, what's bothering you? And she said, he took my wig. And I said, well, tell me about this wig. And she said, the wig was the only thing that I worked very hard for to buy for myself. And he took it and he threw it in dog feces and then threw it at me. And so when I heard that, I thought, what a dehumanizing thing, what a degrading thing. It's power on his part. And I said to her, out of all of this, he hit you, he beat you, he burned you. What bothers you the most? And she said, I want my wig. He hurt me. That bothers me. And then I realized she worked very hard to buy that wig, and that's why it was so significant to her. It was the only thing she probably ever bought with the money that she earned. And then she did go on to say that. I worked very hard for that money, for that wig. And then it clicked. And then eventually she did confess, and she did say she was being trafficked. She was afraid. And we had to put her in a psychiatric unit to keep her safe because we could regulate the visitors in and out, and eventually sent her away to a safe house in Pennsylvania. And hopefully she's doing well there.
Thank you.